Hello, geometry. Today we are going to start chapter 4, which is on triangle congruencies. And we're going to go through the first two of our triangle shortcuts. So some key vocabulary. You're going to want to know what an included side is, and we'll get to that eventually. And you're also going to want to know what an included angle is. But to start out with, the definition of a congruent triangle says two triangles are congruent if all of their corresponding angles and corresponding sides are congruent. Now, this is a little confusing because that word corresponding we've used in previous lessons. Now we're going to use corresponding in a different context. So now we're going to talk about corresponding within triangles rather than with parallel lines. A congruency statement is a statement that shows triangles are congruent and indicates which sides and angles are congruent. So for example, we have this congruency statement, and people tend to forget that when I ask that on a quiz. This is a congruency statement for a triangle. So basically we have the symbol, it's a triangle. BIG, those are the corners or the vertices, is congruent to triangle CAT. Now this is pretty easy to tell which angles and sides go together because the letters go in order, so you can match up the corresponding sides and angles. I'm actually going to do the angles first, but here B is first and also C is first. So I know that angle B corresponds to angle C, but also that angle B is congruent to angle C, and that's an equal sign right there. Okay, the second letter is I here, and the second letter is A here. So I know angle I is congruent to angle A. Those are corresponding. And then lastly, G and T also correspond. So I know that angle G is congruent to angle T. For the sides, similar concept here. You just want to go in order. So I know that BI is congruent to CA. Now take a minute and pause and try to do the other two congruencies for sides. Okay, welcome back. So you should have IG, the segment IG would have to be congruent to AT. And then the last one is you kind of wrap around, but GB segment would be congruent to TC. Another thing you can do is that you can draw a picture whenever you see a congruency statement to help you think about how things are related. So I'll make this is, let's say, BIG, and then I'm going to draw another one that looks the same. And then that one's going to be named CAT. So as you can see here, angle B corresponds with angle C. Angle I corresponds with angle A. Angle G corresponds with angle T. And then with the sides, BI corresponds with CA. IG corresponds with AT. And then GB corresponds with TC. Okay, so we have, to start with, two different reasons, postulates in fact, for how you can prove that triangles are congruent to each other without knowing all of the parts. You actually only need to know 3 of the parts. And those S's stand for side. the A here stands for angle. So if I know side, 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 if I know 3 sides of one triangle are congruent to 3 sides of another triangle, then the triangles have to be congruent. And I have a little sketch here that kind of illustrates this a little bit better. But if I have this first segment laid out, and then I have the second segment laid out, these are congruent, and then those are congruent. Third ones, there's only one way, if you have 3 sides, there's only one way to form the triangle. It may be twisted or it may be flipped, but these 2 triangles are the exact same triangles, and you know that by seeing all of the measures. Okay, so if all of these sides are the same, their angles would also have to all be the same. Okay, the congruency statement would look something like this. So A, B, C would be congruent to X, Y, Z. And then by only knowing all 3 sides are congruent, that was enough information to show that the triangles are congruent. Okay, so we'll go back here and we're going to look at our example here and try to do a congruency statement. So remember, congruency statement, you have a triangle and then 3 letters is congruent to another triangle and then 3 letters. Now, it doesn't really matter how you put the first 3 letters together. So I'll just say A, B, C. But when you do the second triangle statement, you need to make sure your corresponding sides go with the A, B, and the C. So here I started with A. Angle A is between the 1 dash and the 2 dash. So I need to start over here with angle D. That's between the 1 dash and the 2 dash. So A corresponds with D. Okay, then I went to B. So I went across the 1 dash to B. So from D, I need to go across the 1 dash to F. So B would correspond with F. And then you just finish off the triangle with E. So it is really important you pay attention to the markings so that you have the letters in the correct order. Okay, so that's side, side, side. Next one is side, angle, side. So you'll notice here you have 2 sides and an angle. Now, what's really important in this is that it's the included angle. So that's one of your vocabulary words. So included angle, notice that the A is literally attached to both the S's. So when I look at this picture here, the angle that's marked congruent is actually attached to both sides that are marked congruent. So it's side, angle, side. Side, angle, side. Okay, and again, that is the included angle. Now, if we look at our sketch again, there is one for side, angle, side as well. So you show the one side starting off in 2 different triangles. Then you have the angle. Now that angle would go on forever, but we are going to put the second side on that ray. And so there's only one way to form a triangle from here. You would just connect B to C, and you would connect Y to Z. Okay, but those triangles would have to be congruent to each other. Okay, see the lengths, those third lengths are congruent, and then those other 2 angles would have to be congruent. Okay, your congruency statement again, A, B, C, and then X, Y, Z, A to B to C. So the A is the marked angle, so you'd have to start with the marked angle, X to Y to Z. So again, you need to look at the markings in order to know what order the letters go in. But the conclusion here is by only knowing 2 sides and the included angle, so the angle that's formed by the 2 sides, then that's enough information to know that the triangles have to be congruent. Okay, so we're going to do our congruency statement here. Again, congruency statement, you have a triangle, and that's going to be congruent to another triangle. So why don't you pause for a second and try to write an appropriate triangle congruency statement. Okay, welcome back. So you should have on the first triangle any order you want to. I'm just going to go with ABC. I imagine most of you probably did ABC. So A to B to C. So first of all, B is the marked angle. D is the marked angle here. So you could start with the middle if you wanted to, but B and D have to go together. So D would be in the middle of this, in the middle of that name. Okay, A is on the 1 dash. So here on the 1 dash is E. So I would need to start with E so that A and E correspond, B and D correspond, and then obviously your last letter would have to be F. Okay, so that's doing side, angle, side. So let's look at a couple of examples. So the first thing you always want to do when you're asked if triangles are congruent is mark your picture with things, other things that you know. So for example, here I'm looking at the 5 inches, and that would also go with this 5 inches. So I marked those as congruent. 6 inches here would go with the 6 inches here, and then the 8 inches here goes with the 8 inches there. So I have all 3 sides marked as congruent. So that means these triangles are congruent, and they are congruent by side, side, side. This would be the reason. Okay, and then we're going to write a triangle congruency statement, and then we already did the reason. So I'm going to do triangle, I'll just do ABC again. Again, the first triangle doesn't matter what the order is, but the second triangle needs to match. So A is between the 1 dash and the 3 dash. So between the 1 dash and the 3 dash here is E. So I need E. And then I went to B. So that's the 1 and the 2. It's between the 1 and the 2 is F. And then D, it would be the last. Example 2. So other things you can mark in the picture. Notice you have congruencies here in the segments, here in those segments. So you can still use anything we know from previous chapters. So other things we know in this picture are vertical angles are congruent. So I can mark vertical angles as congruent. And then as you can see, you have side, angle, side. So these are congruent by side, angle, side. Okay, and then again, we'll need to put letters in the right order. So I'm just going to randomly pick an order for this triangle. So I'll just say G, I, H. And then the second triangle needs to match that. So G goes across the 1 dash and then to the 2 dash. So I need to start with J and then go to I and then K. Okay, and so that's congruent by side, angle, side. Next one. So another popular thing you can mark in a picture is if the picture has a shared side. So notice this MO is part of both triangles. So what we say is it's congruent to itself. So you can mark any shared sides as well. So then you have side, side, side here and side, side, side. So yes, those are congruent by side, side, side. And then we have our triangle statement. So pause and take a second to try to do your own triangle statement. Okay, welcome back. So on here, I'm just going to pick MLO. So MLO. You just want to make sure that whatever you picked to start with has to correspond with what you picked second. So MLO. So I'm going across the 1 dash to the 2 dash. So across the 1 dash to the 2 dash would be ONM. Okay, and then lastly here we have an angle and then we have 2 sides. However, notice that the angle is not an included angle. This is a non-included angle. So this one is going to be no. The angle would have to be here, and that's not what we have. Thanks.